Hey y'all, welcome back to Ascending with Ashley. I'm Ashley. This is story time. There are going to be more than one parts to this story, more than likely. But we just started daily decolonizing around the mental health system in the United States, and I wanted to get on here and do a project that I started a long time ago, but I never made the video public because I wasn't ready. So this is called Asylum Stories. So the prompts today for daily decolonizing, if you haven't seen that, we're talking about the criminal justice system within mental health crises and how people are treated when people are in either emotional or mental distress. We've talked a lot about that in different ways throughout my channel. So I wanted to talk about my personal experience a little more in depth than I usually have. I know I've alluded to it in a lot of different ways, but I specifically want to talk about what the institutions were like. Okay, so 2009. I was a senior in college in my undergrad, and this was around February. I started going into psychosis. It was more of me finally finding my calling. I was really stressed out about the people asking me what I was going to do after college, and I'm like, I want to smoke weed, like play. I'm like, I don't want to do anything else. I'm good, and so it was a lot of pressure. I've since, to this point, I'm just giving you a little background information, then we'll dive into what the institutions were like. So I started cycling, is what they call it, when you get really grandiose thinking, excitement, manic, right? Very disorganized, very... the people around me were totally freaked out. But that doesn't mean that it was handled correctly either, okay? So I ended up getting myself arrested because paraphernalia, for one. But also I was like, okay, I'm going to go to Uganda and I'm going to work in Kampala at that's the capital of Uganda, in this children's orphanage, right? The woman, what was her name? Ruth, what was your name? Namboa? I think it was Namboa. I could be wrong. She had come to our college that December and done a piece about her orphanage and the things that the children were facing in Uganda due to the Lord's Resistance Army and other... well, I don't know if the LRA was in Uganda. I know they were in Congo. No, they were in Uganda. Okay. Anyway. So then, this was 2009, right? And my major was communication. My minor was peace and justice. I had studied a lot about the world and peace and justice. However, it was a Catholic school, so it was through the lens of Catholicism. And so anyway, I was like, I'm going to Africa, right? Like that's what. So anyway, I started breaking into my apartment building storage units and taking people's things and being like, you can donate this to Uganda. All right, you don't need this if it's sitting in your storage unit. So that's why I got arrested the first time, and they also got me for paraphernalia. So that time, I don't remember. I think that was just like a couple days. I don't know. Maybe that was the time. Back and forth, my family tried to put me in a psychiatric board, the same one I went to when I was like 14 or 15 after my dad died, for suicide ideation. So I was triggered, my trauma responses were heavy, and I freaked out. And the thing about that I remember is that my family took me in for an assessment, and I have the clair abilities, right? Clairvoyance, clairsentience, clairaudience. but it was diagnosed as a mental illness, right? Which is why I am on the soapbox that I am within this channel, because we're not fucking crazy. We're all magical, right? But the system is going to tell you that you're fucking crazy, because if you're not participating in capitalism, which going to Uganda to work at a children's orphanage and stealing everyone's stuff to take is not really. I was also arrested picking up litter. And I remember the cops being like, oh, that's so nice of you. And I'm like, yeah, you shouldn't arrest me. But I had my screwdriver. I'd been breaking into shit. Anyway, I don't think I've ever shared this publicly. So, just so you know, when people are in mental imbalance, let's be very generous and gracious with the language that we use. They're in their own world, okay? And they have their own ideas, and they make sense to them. It might not make sense to the people outside of them, but it makes sense to them. I don't care what anyone says. That's why I like working with people who are in psychosis, because I get it. I understand your thinking. I understand what's going on in here, you know? I understand the connections you're making that other people can't. So anyway, long story short, I ended up in jail for a couple months. They tried putting me on different medications within jail. I ended up in solitary. Well, it wasn't really solitary because it was jail, but it was like they moved me from like a 9-block to a 3-block where I had my own cell. At this point, I was really spiraling out of control. I was having hallucinations, delusions. I got butt-ass naked one day because Blink-182, right? I'm like, what would Blink-182 do, right? And the only thing I had was, like, a Bible. So I was, like, doing Choose Your Own Adventure in the Bible, which was making me go really crazy. I did ask them in jail. They did give me, like, this book of municipal codes because I was super into the numbers, how they related to the letters. That was when my numerology gift was coming into me. That was one of the first gifts I received. And I know I've mentioned that because I'm not a math person, and everyone's like, what the fuck is wrong with this chick? So anyway, I like was doing that with the Bible too. I was like looking up stuff, and then, but like I thought in jail when I was in that 3-block, I was like, okay, Blink-182 is here to get me. And not only were they here to get me, but they were in the Mystery Machine, all right, from Scooby-Doo, the van. So Blink-182 was in the garage in which I got brought into, right? And I remember when I got arrested. Oh, no, this was the second time I got arrested. That first time I got arrested was just like a holding thing. And then I wasn't better. I think they tried to take me to the psych ward, and then I was on campus and I got arrested. So they got me for like trespassing or what was it for? What is it when you go somewhere you're not supposed to? When you're, I don't know. All of this stuff has been wiped off of my record, by the way. It was deemed medically, what's the word? Incompetent? I don't know. It's something around, like, you were out of your fucking mind, you didn't know what you were doing. And it was expunged from my record. But I did do the time. And had probation for, like, 6 months afterwards. So, in jail, so Mystery Machine, Blink-182, I got butt-ass naked, right? I'm like, oh my god. Because Blink-182 was always running. They just came up on my TV. They were always running around naked, so I'm like, okay, let me get naked. And I pulled the fire, the water alarm, the fire spigot, the water in the jail cell. And turned my mattress into a slide, into a surfboard. I was having the best time, butt-ass naked. I will remind you completely. Because I was like, oh, Blink-182 is here to get me. I just have to act like crazy and do this, right? If you've ever seen the Feeling This... if you've ever seen the Feeling This music video, you'll understand where I was coming from. I think I even toilet papered myself. So anyway... the guards didn't like that. I got in big trouble. I got shackled that day. But anyway, and then shortly after that, they were like, this chick needs to go to a mental institution. So, you know, maybe that's a map for someone else. Who knows? But anyway, so Blink-182 never showed up. Assholes. They are here now, though. Anyway, and then I got moved to a mental institution through the court. I had a public defender at the time And he was really cool. And he came that day because I think they called him, the jail called him that day. And then he was like, yeah, she needs to go to a mental institution. So then I ended up at the mental institution, and that was like a lockdown facility. So you start out with, it's kind of like a jail situation. Everyone's wearing sweats. You get, what's the word? If you don't have any money on your books, because it's a lockdown facility, right? So if you don't have any money on your account or whatever, they call it books when you're in there. Then you get indigent. Is that what it's called? Indigent, I think. Which is just every week you get a kit of like a soap, a toothbrush, toothpaste, a postcard back in the day. What else? I think a pencil, maybe. But when I got locked down from the water situation, I also drew a giant peace sign on the wall with my pencil. So I got grounded from pencils, and they grounded me from toothbrushes. So then they gave you like a little condom looking thing that like you put on your finger that has like little bristles. That's what happens when you get, what's the word? Paraphernalia. No? Yeah, paraphernalia. I had gotten paraphernalia a few times because I'm out of my fucking mind, right? I'm psychosis. Anyway, so the lockdown facility was Winnebago Mental Health Institution in Winnebago, Wisconsin. It was about 45 minutes away from where I was in Green Bay. And my best friend from high school was actually going to college in that same city, so she came to visit me. I love you so much, Megan. She brought me belly button rings, I remember. But in Winnebago, you had to go through certain levels improve your behavior before you could move up to more freedoms, right? So when I first got there, it was pretty, sweats. You had to wear like the institution sweats, which in jail you have to wear jail clothes too, right? And then I don't know how long I was there, but then I went to the other side. So there was like just like one of those like panes of glass, like you can see out and in, that separated these two sides. And then as you proved your behavior, you could move into different units within the mental institution. So I started, I don't remember what this one was called. And then I started, and in that first one is when I saw a psychiatrist, and she diagnosed me with bipolar 1. That's when I received the diagnosis. In jail, they didn't diagnose me, but they did try medicating me. Medication is huge in jail, if you don't know, and in prisons. They medicate the fuck out of people, right? Within the food and within actual medications. And you have to take it. You don't have options. So anyway, also within jail, just backing up a little bit, I was only there for like 2.5 months, but I was able to do school. I think it was like every Thursday. And then they also had people come in from the outside that would do like daily devotions and like talk to you about God, right? But it was a way to get out of your cell. So you're like, let's go. We couldn't go outside at jail, but we were able to go to like a day room. So yeah. And then also when you go to court from jail, you get shackled on your ankles, and like around your waist. And you have to go, like for us, we had to go in a van, right? So the jail would call us and tell us, to get ready. You're just in your jail clothes. They shackle you, put you in the van, and then you'd go to the courthouse downtown, which this was Green Bay. And then in the courthouse, in the basement, there's holding cells. And there's also a day room. It depends on the severity and your behavior. I was, for the most part, I remember being in the day rooms. They didn't lock the cells down there, I don't think. But then, like, when they move you upstairs, like when it's almost your time to go to court, you have to go to a holding cell, and then they take you into court. Wow, I haven't thought about this stuff in a long time. So anyway, that was the jail situation. So that was before Winnebago. So then I ended up getting to a dual diagnosis. That psychiatrist that I saw diagnosed me with cannabis reliance or something, and and bipolar 1. Bipolar 1 is when you're on the more high manic side versus low depressive, right? According to the DSM. So anyway, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of the Mental Illnesses, right? Which didn't even fucking get started until 1952, right after World War II. If you want to check out my timeline, I have a timeline on TikTok. Look that up. That's what I got my master's degree in, because I was like, you guys are full of shit. I was just having emotional distress, and I didn't have to go through any of this. So anyway, when I finally got to the dual diagnosis wing of the mental institution, that's when because I stayed for a year. I mean, it was like 10 months, technically. My entire lockup situation was about a year. So yeah, I got to be in jail. I was in jail when everyone else that I was in college with graduated. That was a really hard thing. Also, okay, so the mental institution. So I was on the Gemini. They called it Gemini. I do remember the name of that one because it was dual diagnosis, which means some sort of substance abuse and mental health issues. But then you got more privileges. You were able to work. Okay, I worked at the mental institution. I made rugs with a loom. Okay. And I had fun because, again, you got to go to, like, this other little building. You got to leave your, we did occupational therapy. We did art therapy. We did, it was a really rehabilitative space, and there were lifers within the mental health institution. There was this one guy, Steve. He didn't have a tongue, and he had murdered his mom. So there were lifers, right, who were in there. I just remember him specifically, mostly because my sister had her first son and brought him to the mental institution as a newborn, and then proceeded to, for about a decade after that, throw that in my face that she even brought him to visit me because of Steve, because he was and that guy was like super gentle. He like just minded it. He didn't have a tongue. He didn't talk to anybody. Anyway, I made a lot of shit in the mental institution, in OT. That I read Twilight. I read the Twilight books while I was locked up in Winnebago. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince came out while I was there, so I got to watch that. I remember the people in Gemini unit. You're there for months with people. They become good friends, and I remember the folks. I don't want to name drop because I think that's rude, but the staff were cool. I loathe. I don't drink coffee anymore at all, but instant coffee is the only thing you have in those facilities. And I absolutely loathe it. I cannot stand it. So these are some of the things that happened. That was my first experience. I will come back and share part 2 with what happened in 2017 in LA. I'm finally ready to share. I've shared and spoke on it a little bit, but that was super traumatic. And again, I didn't deserve any of that. It was not cool. But anyway, all that to say is, like, you really don't know what people have been through. Mm-hmm. What people are going through. Yeah. So when you are decolonizing from the mental health system, remember that capitalism breeds insanity. All right, remember that first and foremost. This is not an individual thing. It is a lack of human needs, lack of human respect, lack of humanity, connection. Oftentimes it's lack of basic ass rights as well. And once someone gets into the system, they continue getting into the system because of warrants, because of their record, because of, corrupt policing, because of the system as a whole being set in bullshit. You're forcing young people. I mean, I was 23 when this shit went down. Like, I didn't know what I wanted to do I'm 37. I still don't want. I finally started to figure my shit out, because I'm like, oh, I guess. But it has been this progression, right? So, like, I didn't even want to go to college. My mom made me, and I'm grateful because now I have a master's degree. I couldn't have gotten that without a bachelor's, right? But all that to say is, like, the expectations on young people in this country is absolutely astounding. Okay, no one wants to join corporate America. No one. In your early 20s, no one wants to be there. Fuck that. No way. I don't want to be there anymore, and I'm reaching 40 pretty soon. There's no way in hell I would ever go back to corporate America. I worked my jobs, I've done retail, I've done serving, I've done call center, I've done canvassing. I've done tons of shitty jobs because I didn't want to work for corporate. That kills your soul. So does big pharma. But anyway, one of the saddest things is watching people get to go, both in jail and in mental institutions. Watching other people's time be up and yours not is really, really hard. It's really hard. And I'm just a white girl who got through this system, so I can't even imagine what lots of people are going through. There's lifers who are, there's people who have been killed on death row for things that they never even did, right? The system is the problem. It's the one making everybody crazy, and they fucking know it, right? Pharma does serve as a lobotomization of your brain. It cuts your nerves. It disconnects things, right? And also within being in this system, I knew the ways that I was being studied. Everything is quantified, behavior included, right? And that's not conducive to the human condition, all right? We are emotional ass beings. We aren't thinking about let me quantify my love for you. Let me quantify my hate, right? We don't quantify life when we think about reality, right? All right, I'm gonna run out of time. It feels good to share. I will be back and share what happened in 2017. That was a fucking shit show. From what I remember, I don't even have all of my memory back from that, but I'll share what did happen in LA. I shared a little bit yesterday in the fear thing, but ultimately it's the system. The system is corrupt. The people around you who do obey the system are always going to do that, right? And that's why I've cut off everyone, including my family, because they kept doing that to me. Instead of like, hey Ash, do you need a hug? Yeah, a hug would actually fix this. I really don't need to get locked up. All right. Have a good one.